It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10. Our top stories. 7 Iranians are among 8 men arrested in 2 separate counter-terrorism investigations.
There must have been 20, 30 police with guns. Obviously, there was a dog there, and obviously this man getting dragged out. Quite worrying to be happening right next door to us.
Also tonight, 14 children arrested over the death of a teenage boy in a fire are released on police bail. Benjamin Netanyahu vows retaliation against Yemen's Houthis and Iran after a missile hits near Israel's busiest airport. Reform UK explains how it wants to change the morals of young people it believes have been turned against the UK.
What we need to do is stop demoralising our young people. So what we're talking about is stop teaching young people in schools writ large that they should hate their country.
And after Lady Gaga performs for 2 million fans on Rio's Copacabana beach, Brazilian police reveal they foiled a plot to bomb the concert. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages in our press preview from 10:30. Hello there, a very good evening. 7 Iranians are among 8 men arrested in 2 separate anti-terrorism investigations. 5 of the suspects were taken into custody as specialist officers swooped on properties in London, Swindon, Stockport and Manchester. The rest were arrested in London in the other investigation, as Sky's Lisa Dowd reports.
On Saturday evening, armed officers told children playing to get inside. A short time later, dozens of counter-terror police brought a barely clothed suspect out of this house on East Street in the Firgrove area of Rochdale. It was part of a series of arrests of Iranian nationals that took place across the country by officers investigating a suspected plot to target specific premises. And this raid unfolded at the bottom of a neighbour's garden.
The kids were playing in the garden. They came running in the house, said that a man with a mask had told them to get back inside. So obviously, I was a bit worried who's telling the kids, who's got a mask on telling the kids to get inside. So as we've come out, we just heard a massive bang. Seen loads of police everywhere with guns shouting at us to get inside the house. So obviously we went inside, went upstairs to see what was going on. And then the next thing, there's just loads of shouting in the house. And we've seen a man getting pulled out from the back, basically got dragged down the side entry and thrown into all the bushes and then handcuffed.
In all, 5 arrests were made in the northwest, southwest and London. 4 of those are Iranian. In an unrelated counter-terror investigation, 3 further Iranians were detained under the National Security Act, which covers offences including espionage, sabotage and foreign interference.
In both these operations, clearly we have taken steps today because we felt like there was a risk to the public. And so our action is to keep the public safe. We will continue to do that, and we do need to make sure that we're conducting assessments about any enduring threat to the public.
In Cheadle-Hulme in Stockport, a passenger filmed as counter-terror officers detained an individual on a pavement near to a children's play area. Locals told Sky News several people were detained in the operation and police confirmed a 29-year-old was arrested.
We saw 1 man detained up there, 2 men detained in the house there. Lots of police activity and lots of the police milling around.
More than 150 miles south in Swindon, a terraced house was cordoned off by police. A 29-year-old man was arrested in the area.
These were 2 major operations that reflect some of the biggest counter-state threat and counter-terrorism operations that we have seen in recent years. I want to thank the police and security services who've shown the most impressive professionalism and expertise in carrying out these operations to keep the country safe.
Police say that their investigation is fast-moving as they try to establish a motive for the alleged plot and identify whether there's any further risk to the public. They are asking people to remain vigilant. The target site of the alleged plot has not been disclosed by officers, but they say that those connected to the premises have been made aware and are being given advice and support. Lisa Dowd, Sky News, Greater Manchester.
So what do the operations tell us about terrorism planning and activity? Here's our data and forensics correspondent, Tom Cheshire, who's been reporting from the Home Office.
Yeah, really big operation, dramatic, but this is also against a rising uptick in counter-terror activity, and the context is perhaps useful here. So the latest data released earlier this year by the Home Office shows that 2024 had the most arrests for terror-related offences for any of the previous 4 years. We take you through that. 248 people were arrested in the year to December 2024. So that's a steady uptick since 2022, and it's the highest number in years. And that covers all terrorism, whether it's Islamist, it's far-right, but also this murky ground of state-linked activity. Now, the police have been very clear these are two separate, unrelated incidents, but the common thread here is nationality. 7 out of the 8 people arrested in these two separate operations were from Iran. And the context for that is there has been this warning from government, from security services, about increased activity by Iran on British soil. Here's what the head of MI5 said last year.
Since January 2022, with police partners, we have responded to 20 Iran-backed plots presenting potentially lethal threats to British citizens and UK residents. As events unfold in the Middle East, we will give our fullest attention to the risk of an increase in or a broadening of Iranian state aggression here in the UK.
That warning was again made, a similar warning made by Dan Jarvis, the Security Minister, when he was speaking to the House of Commons in front of Parliament just a few weeks ago.
The National Security Act of 2023, which was supported on both sides of the House, has given the police new powers to target evolving activity. For example, the Act criminalises assisting a foreign intelligence service, such as the IRGC or MOIS. The maximum penalty for these offences is 14 years in prison.
Just to unpick that a little bit, because there are a lot of acronyms. The IRGC, that's the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. MOIS, that is the Ministry of Information and Security. So those are both Iran's foreign intelligence agencies. And it's crucial. That act you mentioned, the 2023 National Security Act, that's actually the act that's been used in one of these investigations when it comes to helping with foreign powers threat activity. That's what we understand is happening here. So those powers are already being put to use. But it does paint this picture of Iran increasingly emboldened and aggressive, as the government puts it, carrying out this campaign. A lot of that targeting dissidents, whether it's media, whether it's journalists, but also traditionally Israeli and Jewish targets here and abroad.
14 children who were arrested over the death of teenager Leighton Carr in a fire have tonight been released on police bail. The 11 boys and 3 girls were arrested on suspicion of manslaughter after the fire at an industrial estate in Gateshead. Leighton is being remembered as a boy who brightened lives as a fundraising page looks to help his family with funeral costs. Our North of England correspondent Fraser Maud reports from Gateshead.
Disused and derelict. The Fairfield Industrial Park on the banks of the River Tyne, where 14-year-old Leighton Carr lost his life. He'd been reported missing to police, with the last sighting of him happening at 7 p.m. on Friday. At 8 p.m, emergency services were called to the 15-acre site to tackle a large fire in one of the derelict buildings. Officers searched the scene and found Leighton's body.
Northumbria Police has now confirmed that 14 children, 11 boys and 3 girls, all aged between 11 and 14, who were arrested on suspicion of manslaughter, have now all been released on bail.
The officer leading the investigation issued a statement saying this was an extremely tragic incident where a boy has sadly lost his life. She goes on to say our thoughts are with Leighton's family as they begin to attempt to process the loss of their loved one. Our specialist officers, she says, will continue to support them in whatever way they can.
People living near this industrial park say it's a regular occurrence that young people, teenagers and children will often crawl under the security gates to gain access to this derelict site. Once inside, they commit acts of vandalism and often set small fires. But the size of the blaze that happened on Friday night, they say, was exceptional. Flowers have been left at the scene by those mourning Leighton's death, calling him a sensitive soul and a boy who brightened up their lives. A fundraising page has been set up by a family friend to assist with funeral expenses. On it, its creator says, "My best friend has lost her 14-year-old son in one of the most tragic ways you could ever imagine." Detectives say that as they continue to piece together the circumstances surrounding Leighton Carr's death, there will be a continued police presence at the site, both for public reassurance and to carry out a detailed forensic examination of the scene. Fraser Maud, Sky News, Gateshead.
Reform UK's chairman, Zia Youssef, says his party's mission is to, in his words, remoralise young people to take pride in their country. They're looking to lay out more policies after big wins in Thursday's local elections. Mr Youssef spoke to Sky's Trevor Phillips, as did the Health Secretary Wes Streeting, who said Labour now sees reform as a serious opposition force. Here's our political correspondent, Tamara Cohen.
Reform celebrating their wins in council and parliamentary elections, and its leaders are now setting their sights on national power. The party's chairman and multi-millionaire donor told Sky News Nigel Farage could go all the way to Downing Street.
We want to get Nigel elected as our Prime Minister in 2029 with a majority. We think we can get 350 to 400 Reform MPs. It won't be easy. We can usher in a new era of politics in this country.
But what sort of policies will broaden their appeal?
What we need to do is stop demoralising our young people. So what we're talking about is stop teaching young people in schools writ large that they should hate their country, that they should be ashamed. And look at the character...
Do you genuinely believe that teachers are going about telling children to hate their country?
Look at the character assassination that has taken place on the great Sir Winston Churchill.
Reform gained 2 councils here in Northamptonshire from the Tories. How has this policy gone down?
I don't know, honestly, a lot about British history, so I feel there is a need to know a bit more.
I love learning about history, and I feel like you can have a sort of sense and pride in history without condemning others of now.
I think it's good to know where you're from, 100%.
Westminster's main parties are reeling from their losses and determined that Reform are scrutinised for what they do, running services like bin collections and social care. Having made big promises to cut spending, in 4 years' time, they'll have a local government record to be judged on.
The Health Secretary acknowledged voters were frustrated.
I think Reform is definitely a real threat and one that we take seriously. I think there's clearly, on the right of British politics, a realignment taking place. It's not yet clear whether at the next general election it will be Reform or the Conservatives that are Labour's main challengers.
And the Conservatives said Kemi Badenoch would stay on and hold Labour to account.
I would not underestimate Nigel Farage or Reform as a fighting force, but there's a reason why populist parties are popular, is because they offer everything to everybody. When they're in a position of delivering things, that's when the shine comes off.
Reform welcomes its 5th MP here next week. The numbers still very much against them. The real test is whether this is the start of something bigger.
Well, let's join Tamara, who's in Downing Street tonight. And Tamara, a chance for the Prime Minister to shift focus on a new week, particularly with VE Day events.
That's right, Jonathan. The Prime Minister will be very much involved in the VE Day commemorations beginning tomorrow, when he'll be in the royal box with King Charles, and further into the week, emphasising the message of patriotism and duty, rather than commenting on predictions that Nigel Farage might at some point be living in the building behind me. But there is some serious thinking going on among his team about reform. We've heard in the past them attacking Nigel Farage over comments he made about a
decade ago, seeming to support Vladimir Putin. I think we'll be hearing a lot more of that, especially as Keir Starmer has 3 European summits to attend this month, the first of them in Norway on Thursday, in which he'll be emphasising his support for Ukraine and trying to get this coalition of the willing together. There will also be a additional focus on what he said about the NHS and the needing of new ways to fund it, which Labour believe helped them avoid an actually worse defeat in Runcorn by attacking him on that. But look, there are Labour MPs who are frustrated and feel that the cost of living is the real issue. They are concerned that the decisions made about the winter fuel allowance to take it away from 10 million pensioners continue to haunt their party. A couple of Labour MPs I spoke to today described it as potentially like the poll tax. We have the first criticism from former Cabinet Minister Louise Haigh in the newspapers tonight, saying Labour need to fund a programme of investment to show people that things are changing. For the Conservatives too, things look really bleak for the party, having suffered very serious losses for reform. And I think what we're going to also see from both major parties in the next few weeks is more focus than ever on what reform are doing in the councils that they have won. They've talked about ending asylum hotels. Many of those contracts have several years to run on them, so the pressure on delivery is really on.
OK, tomorrow, thank you. To the Middle East now, and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is vowing to strike back after Yemen's Houthis fired a missile that hit near Israel's main airport. Video shows panic among passengers and smoke rising not far from a terminal building at Ben Gurion Airport outside Tel Aviv. Israel's cabinet had earlier been due to meet to discuss the next stage of the war against Hamas. The Houthis say it was a hypersonic ballistic missile fired in support of Palestinians in Gaza.
The airport operations were completely halted for more than an hour. With this, the Yemeni armed forces reaffirmed their warning to all international airlines to cease flights to Ben Gurion Airport, as it has become unsafe for air navigation.
The whole world is being challenged by the Houthis, including in the dastardly attack they did today near Ben Gurion Airport. We will not tolerate it. We will take very strong action against them. And we always remember that they act with their patron Iran's direction and support.
Well, our Middle East correspondent Alistair Bunkle in Jerusalem says Israel will be alarmed at how much worse this attack could have been.
Yeah, I mean, this is deeply worrying for Israel, and this has happened too close to home, as it were. The fact that a missile fired from Yemen has not only managed to evade Israel's missile defense system for ballistic missiles, the Arrow system, but also a US anti-missile battery, the THAAD system, and then land very close to the country's international airport. I mean, you know, a few more 100 meters to the north, and it would have been right in and amongst the airport itself. So it really concerning for Israel, and we have seen the impact that's had very, very quickly. I mean, a lot of international airlines, British Airways, US carriers, the Lufthansa group as well, all suspending their flights for a number of days. Again, it's been very much on and off with international carriers coming to and from Israel over the last year and a half because of the ongoing war. And that is the impact that the Houthis are having. And really, you know, from a Houthi point of view, it's a pretty simple but effective tactic. I mean, they laid it out a couple of months ago. They said, we will continue to target Ben Gurion Airport. And so they have done so. And all they need is to be successful once, and I think you could argue that today's strike against Israel was, you know, successful in a sense, because it has led to that reaction from international airlines, and that then has a major impact on foreign travel in and out of Israel and the economy and so on and so on. So, you know, the Houthis are continuing to target Israel. They say it is in response to the ongoing war in Gaza. We've seen in return, particularly the Americans, but also actually the British in the past week, carrying out airstrikes against Houthi positions in Yemen. I suspect the Israelis will now carry out their own strikes, possibly tonight, possibly in the coming days. Benjamin Netanyahu has said that there will be a reaction. And so, it is posing a real threat to this country. And I think a lot of Israelis, I heard the explosion of the impact up here in Jerusalem. I heard it as we were having breakfast this morning, and that will have reverberated around tens of thousands of homes around central Israel. So it is very, very worrying that this missile managed to get through what is generally considered to be very sophisticated air defences.
Alistair Bunkle there in Jerusalem for us. Now, Brazilian police say they foiled a bomb plot at Lady Gaga's huge free concert on Rio de Janeiro's Copacabana beach. More than 2 million people attended. Investigators say the bomb plot was organised by a group that recruited people, including children, to carry out coordinated attacks using explosives and Molotov cocktails. They say one man, described as a group leader, was caught in the act. A teenager has also been detained. Donald Trump has played down suggestions that he wants to run for a third term, which is banned under the US Constitution. He and others in the administration have repeatedly said the president wants to stay on, and supporters have been seen wearing Trump 2028 hats. President Trump was asked about it during an interview with Sky's US partner, NBC News.
So many people want me to do it. I have never had requests so strong as that. But it's something that, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to do. I don't know if that's constitutional that they're not allowing you to do it or anything else, but there are many people selling the 2028 hat. But this is not something I'm looking to do. I'm looking to have 4 great years and turn it over to somebody, ideally a great Republican, to carry it forward. But I think we're going to have 4 years, and I think 4 years is plenty of time to do something really spectacular.
Hard-right nationalist George Simeon is all but certain to secure a decisive win in the first round of Romania's presidential election rerun. With 90% of votes counted, he far outpaces the other candidates. There'll be a second round in 2 weeks. The election rerun was called after Russian meddling was suspected in the previous vote late last year. Moscow denies that. Returning to VE Day and a big week of events ahead of the 80th anniversary on Thursday. But what was the day itself like all those years ago? Well, 98-year-old Ruth Bourne was among the crowds who stood outside Buckingham Palace shouting for the King and royal family to appear. She's been reminiscing with our correspondent Tom Parmenter.
There are very few people left who remember the euphoria here 80 years ago. But Ruth does.
We can see the gates just ahead here. Can you remember where you were?
Yes, we were over there on the left with a million others, or so it felt. There was the most amazing atmosphere, like an electric buzz. We all started shouting, "We want the King." We all went crazy and cheering. There wasn't an empty lamppost to be seen. They were all clambering up the lamppost like swarming bees, you know.
You were involved with Bletchley Park and the code breaking.
Yes, I wasn't a code breaker per se. I was a Turing bomb operator, invented by Turing to speed up the process of code breaking.
My late grandmother also worked in one of the offices feeding information into Bletchley, and you were all part of an extraordinary machine.
Yes, it was like a code-breaking factory. It was a wonderful time. Everyone was so happy. I mean, it was a very hard war. We had something at last to cheer about. You went into the street and complete strangers, you stood one behind the other and clasped each other round the waist and did the conga.
Victory Day changes to Victory Night, and the darkening skies over London are lit by the joyous lights of peace.
I think that blackout was something that we were all delighted to see the back of.
And this is you in wartime?
Yes, that's me.
As the young lady that would have been here on the street?
Yes, waving my hat in the air.
Yes.
All of a sudden, the future was here.
Isn't she fabulous? Well, we've had this from Buckingham Palace. The King, Queen and other members of the royal family are much looking forward to all the week's VE Day events when they will unite with the rest of the nation and those across the Commonwealth and wider world in celebrating, commemorating and giving thanks to the wartime generation whose selfless devotion, duty and service should stand as an enduring example to us all and must never be forgotten. And don't forget, we'll have special coverage starting tomorrow with Sarah Jane Mee at Buckingham Palace. You can catch that from 10 a.m. here on Sky News. Should be an interesting week. Let's go to the latest sport now with Chris.
Staying connected is vital for business. Sky Business sponsors this report.
It strikes me that it's changed an awful lot even in the last 10 or 15 years. It wasn't very long ago we had yourself, we had Sam Allardyce, Alan Pardew, Steve McLaren, Steve Bruce, Harry Redknapp, all of you competing amongst each other in the top division. And that was a decade and a half ago. It wasn't that long ago.
No.
So that seemed a heck of a change so quickly, doesn't it?
Well, you're talking about people pretty much the same sort of age as well, of course. You know, maybe that was a generation, wasn't it, you're talking of? You know, we were probably at quite an important part of our careers in that period and after, with quite a long CV and a lot of clubs behind that we could refer to, which would suggest we can do this job. I mean, now, of course, you know, the focus is often on the younger coach, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that either. It's a young person's game, so I don't complain about that at all. But as a result, of course, when they're looking for a younger coach, these clubs, often they probably think they're going to find him abroad. The Premier League is becoming a force to itself. I mean, the amount of money, it reminds me of Italy when I was there, because Italy was a place where all the players were being attracted to and where the big money was. So there's been an enormous change. So that's where the Premier League is today. So any job that comes up in the Premier League is not going to be, well, here's a list of Englishmen who might be interested in the job or who might be candidates. You go out, well, who's at Bayern Munich at the moment? Who's at Barcelona? Who's at Real Madrid? Who's at PSG? Why don't we get one of those? Because you know that they can actually be attracted to the job, because the job is extremely well paid, and you're playing in a league which is, in most people's view, at least all English people's view, one of the best leagues in the world.
The Italian one is probably more tactical, defensive side. Spanish is more quality, more technique. And England is everything. It's physicality, it's strong, it's quality, it's all the best manager like Carlo Ancelotti, Pep, Klopp, the best manager in this moment in the world. They were all here in England. It's the toughest one for sure.
It is the league that everyone wants to be coach in. Pick one league, everyone will say, I want to coach in the Premier League if possible. It is extremely difficult. I think the level of coaching in the Premier League is insane. From every team. If you look at the details and the tactical level, I think is extremely high.
If you look at the opposition every week that you're facing, the quality, it's huge. Also of the coaches and the managers, how they can tweak things within the game and you have to react to it. Those levels are world class.
The Premier League has long been a home for elite managers from right across the world. But in terms of English managerial representation abroad, that's still very poor. Just look at the number of games managed in the Champions League since 1992 across Europe. And not one of those coaches has managed over 5 knockout games in the competition. But is it all doom and gloom? Take a glance into our second tier. The picture changes.
This football club has taken them from the doldrums to English
English football's biggest stage.
Do you feel like to get a job in the Premier League as an Englishman, you have to be promoted to the division?
I would say 99 times out of 100, that's how I see it. Unless somebody absolutely excels in the Championship and somebody takes a punt on them, majority of the time, if not all the time, that's the case. I do think there's some tremendous talent right the way through the divisions. I've had that opportunity of managing in all 4 divisions, all 5 divisions really. It does shock me and disappoints me, but it doesn't surprise me. I think with the investment from abroad.
Promotion was demanded of this Fulham team. It's an incredible job that Scott Parker has done. Bournemouth have got everything they dreamed of. Scott Parker has done it.
History's probably telling you you probably need to fall into that position for an opportunity of being in the organisation that puts you into the position of interim, or you do well from there, or history's telling you that you need to come up via the Championship, because there's more opportunity in the Championship and more opportunity in the other leagues, really.
My pathway, I don't think you can sort of map out and plan really. It just takes you. I think it's sometimes a little bit like snakes and ladders. You sort of climb and climb and climb, then you might have a bit of a plateau, then you might drop, and then you might go again. Maybe I'm opening myself up for a little bit of criticism here, but you know, you went into the Premier League and you know, you were looking and waiting, you know, looking to my left or looking to my right in terms of dugouts and technical areas, and waiting for something special to happen. Now I remember one manager who's, you wouldn't believe, and I'm not going to name his name, he's an incredible manager, has won loads of things, and he was going first and second balls, play forward, run forward, you know, hook it, win your headers, win your tackles, win your races, and I'm going, am I back in the conference? That's a sort of just a little snapshot of sort of the experience that I've had.
Scott, congratulations. How do you sum up the emotions of being given a chance to manage?
One of excitement, appreciate the opportunity which the owners have given me here.
I think I probably had to earn the trust, but for sure it gave me that opportunity. And probably what gave me the opportunity was I was at the football club for 5 or 6 years as a player, and probably ownership and people making them decisions see traits or see behaviours in me.
Sky Business sponsors this report.
And that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we'll take a first look at Monday's papers in the press preview. Tonight, I'm joined by former London Deputy Mayor for Business, Rajesh Agrawal, and former Conservative Special Advisor, Anita Boateng. And among the stories, we'll be discussing this on the front of The Times. Its headline, EU blocks efforts to curb flow of migrants. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.